So, my name is Leonard Paul. I run the School of Video Game Audio. And then these two folks here are from Firelight Technologies down in Melbourne, Australia. At least that's where the company is. They might be in secret hidden locations, due to the internets. But yeah, they've been very gracious by, basically putting up to share their time with our community to basically so that you can ask questions and also see all the cool stuff that's going on with Fmod Studio these days. So, yeah, I think we'll just keep the introduction short and say hopefully all the audio is going well. If there's something weird, please let me know on the YouTube side of things, but I'm assuming all's going well. So, cool. All right, well, please take it away, Aaron.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having us today, Leonard. Um, yeah, so my name's Aaron Edwards. I'm the product manager at Firelight Technologies for Fmod. I'm here today with Simon Stenberger, my lovely assistant product manager. Um, and yeah, we just wanted to have a chat today about our, the direction that we're moving in the future, the directions we're kind of trying to take for Fmod and the developments that we're focusing on, and then the different parts, just to kind of see what we can update people on, actually, you know, the different that we're moving into. Um, I guess just a little bit about myself and who I am. Um, uh, I've got 16, 17 years experience in the media industry as a freelance composer, sound designer. Um, I started off in the film industry, then moved into production music, trailers and whatnot, and then started working on primetime TV as a music editor, and then moved into there as into games. Started specializing in games about 7 or 8 years ago, and then yeah, Firelight came along and said they'd love to work with me on developing Fmod further, and said I'd love to. Honestly, I've used both Wise and Fmod extensively throughout my career. I think there was one point in my career that I was working on a project in Unity using Wise and another project at the same time using Unreal and Fmod simultaneously, where I was actually audio lead for both. So wouldn't recommend doing that. It hurts your brain. Cool. Yeah. So the one of the first things that I wanted to do in my role as product manager for Fmod was just really clean up the onboarding experience for um, new users and existing users. So providing a bit of a smoother experience on getting used to the tool and showcasing the different workflows and pipelines that we've got, and also cleaning up documentation, usability, all that kind of fun stuff. And yeah, we've got a lot of different features and things in development by our amazing tech team. But my personal focus has been a lot on just usability, UX, and yeah, just different production pipe, how F looks in a day-to-day environment, and then what we can do to improve that or make that a more fluid and creative. So I thought something that would be good to start talking about today would be just a little bit of what that is actually looking like at the moment and where we're going in that direction. Um, for a little bit of context, we recently had, I think it was just over 2 weeks worth of conferences locally here in Australia. We were actually attending multiple events, back to back for 14, 15 days straight, ultimately. Um, uh, but that was great because we could really start talking with the local development scene, seeing what our users were really doing, and just getting ourselves connected with the local community again. Especially after the pandemic, it was great to start seeing everybody again, and remembering that other humans exist in this world. And it was really great to talk to everybody after they'd had this kind of hiatus almost from the pandemic. And everybody had spent a lot of time refining their skills and updating themselves. And as a result, a lot of people had looked into middleware and audio things and Fmod and Wise, and Unreal, and changes that are coming with all those programs. And it was really fascinating to see and talk to people about their experience. that because I think it gave us a really clear and undiluted reference to what what is missing from our onboarding experience and what we can do to make that. And also, bringing my experience of actually learning this stuff myself. I was self-taught sound designer, self-taught technical audio as well. So learning Fmod and Wise, I literally just learnt it myself. Go through a course thing, which I would really recommend doing because learning stuff by yourself is exhausting and draining, and you learn really bad habits. So someone like
Uh-oh.
Leonard is a godsend for this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, by combining all of those kind of experiences, we really were able to solidify and trust the fact that the directions we're going in is, I think, something of value. So um, we've got two main prongs taking the directions in with that, where we're going, down the road A and then road B, but they both angle. Um, the first road is our tutorial content, basically our onboarding tutorials, videos, and just onboarding content in general.
Hmm.
Um, so we're overhauling our entire tutorial playlist.
Wow.
We've got I think there's 14 or 15 planned videos for the initial onboarding series,
Hmm.
which I've developed in tandem with the team at FMod. And we've spent a lot of time really refining the approach that we're taking with these videos. And we've got some clips that we can show later of what that is looking like. But we spent a lot of time really reinforcing and developing the concept of passing information clearly. So we're not just kind of going, hey, here's Fmod and here's what it can do, and just throwing it out there. We're really trying to
Hmm.
cultivate a healthy transfer of information by making sure that our pacing is nice and even. Simon's been doing an amazing job of keeping up with all the editing that I'm throwing at him by doing that. Being a stickler for, that's 5.5 seconds of dead air. We can't have that. We've got to have minimum five, max of five. Um, but yeah, we're making sure that the information that we're passing on is fluid and as streamlined as we can, and ensuring that we're not jumping from point A to point B without explaining how we get there, and all these little things that it may not seem the most exciting thing to do, but I think the tutorials when they're out will kind of show what we mean when we're saying that attention to detail is really going to help get people up with this stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess um, I hope you're not saying that the education side of things isn't super exciting. But this tutorials sound awesome.
Yeah, no, look, I spent quite a few years teaching as well. As Leonard and I have had some lovely chats about that in the past.
Hmm.
And I helped revamp the game audio course at a local institute here in Melbourne. And so I've got a lot of experience with working with the students and seeing where they were falling short on FMod. And I think by leaning on that experience and taking my personal day-to-day use cases, trying to combine those two together, have made for I feel like some pretty engaging. And it's been really enjoyable going through this and just kind of helping build everybody back up to help with it. I think is really good.
Hmm.
Um, so we've got multiple videos planned. It's a long form ongoing plan that we've got. So the onboarding videos, the first playlist. We've also got some other playlists in development, but they're down the track of some more intermediate day-to-day use cases of explaining. Let's make a footsteps event for a game, or environmental game audio sound, or combat systems or animation triggers, dialogue, all that stuff that you literally work with day to day when you're working in game audio. We want to be able to really help people um, showcase what that might look like. But of course, at the end of the day, Fmod is really just a set of tools to enable somebody's individual workflow. So
Hmm.
what we want to do is frame this in a way that goes, this is a suggested way of how these tools can work, but we want to make sure that our users understand the individual tools and how they function or what their purposes are, so the individuals can then, look at it and go, oh, so this is how they're using it. I could use it like this, and it becomes
Yeah.
a more, um, it gives the individuals more of a framework to apply their own creativity to. And that's what I find so inspiring, just seeing what people come up with FMod and games and audio in general is awesome. Seeing what people can do in these weird and wacky little solutions they come up with stuff, and you go, wow, that's awesome. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's something that I've been, how do you say, enthralled with for many years, is to see that creative process and to,
Mm,
I don't know, as an art form, it really is quite amazing to have an art form that's like in real time, like dance or theater. It's really got this, sort of vivacity to it that I find really, really yeah, really captivating. I will note one thing is that
mm.
with your microphone, it looks like you are getting clipped out on the bottom end of it. So, like when you're too quiet, the Discord seems to be gating you
Oh,
out.
okay.
So, maybe if
I'll
you can change the
yep.
level slightly there.
I will quickly adjust my sensitivity down
Yeah,
to
I
about
guess what,
there. That should be a little bit better.
yeah,
Let's test. We can drop there. It's pretty quiet here today. Assuming my
yeah.
dog doesn't decide he wants to join in.
Wait a minute. We'd love to hear the dog.
I'm surprised you didn't before, if I'm honest. He
The
just
question
barked
is
at something.
for how long do you want to hear the dog?
Oh, okay. These are
Yes,
people
that is
that
very
work
true.
together.
He is a beagle, and when he barks, it is very much a beagle bark.
Yes. Yeah. No, that looks a little bit better because basically you're
Cool.
sort of bottoming out there and
Yeah, just tipping out
you
when
know
the on the mumbles.
they,
Yep.
well, yeah, exactly, the little quiet parts that we still want to hear. It's nice
Hmm.
to hear the details. Well, this approach sounds great, and like I even said, like over in the YouTube side of things, and once again, I'll say and just people can ask questions in the YouTube chat, and then what I'll do is that I'll ask you folks, those questions audio wise,
Yeah, we'd love to
and
hear what people are thinking for sure.
Mm.
yeah, exactly. And so for me, I am very excited by the whole 14, 15 new videos. I mean, to me, that's going to be so helpful because it's just, like this industry moves so quickly, and to have fresh
Mm,
content is something that is kind of required because, within a year or so, things kind of already get stale, and it's nice to always basically be, yeah, feeding the machine. So
yeah,
I'm not going to hold you
totally.
to a date on those. I know that that's a tricky one, but I am, I'm not saying Christmas is coming, but I can handle maybe, GDC-ish kind of time. So, anyways, I know that
We'll definitely
giving a
see how we
deadline is
go.
tricky.
Mm. Yeah, no, we given the size of our production team for the videos, it's definitely tricky to give any sort of specific dates, but we're working as hard as we can to get them out as quickly as we can because I know people are very hungry for content, and which is so exciting for us to see people that want to learn. Like, I think that's an amazing position to be in for
Mm.
a company to have users that want to learn more. That's not how this usually works. So no, I think it's really exciting. Um, I mean, this might be a good time to maybe show some of the clips that we've got from the tutorials. We've got a couple of little clips from video 1 and 2 that we thought it might be good to showcase to people what they currently look like. They're very much work in progress still. There's been a couple of uh, you know, a couple of changes to the latest versions of FMod that we've got to go back and re-edit again before they go live. But I think it would be good just to show people, exactly what I mean when we say we're really trying to make sure that we're presenting this in a much more curated way than just necessarily saying this is how FMod works. We're going, all the motion graphics and explanations and conceptually explaining what the concept of the element of a tool is, rather than just going, you know, an editor,
Mhm.
an event is something that plays the sound. It's like, well, we want to explain to people the concepts behind that.
Nice.
So I'm just going to um, get this video open, and then we can. I think if I share my screen, hopefully this will work okay.
Hmm.
So go
The
to this one, to
magic of
this
the
one.
internet. Okay. I've clicked on the stream.
Cool,
And
cool.
then, well, same thing, ask our YouTube folks if they're able to hear the audio correctly too.
Cool. So we're good to go. We've got the watching stream.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Alrighty, I'll let this fly.
In Fmod Studio, you create an event to play a sound. You can then customize how that sound will be played within each event. A game engine can then play that event just as it would a normal audio clip, but now the sound played retains all your customizations. The Banks tab is where all the created banks are stored for your project. A bank is a collection of events and assets from your Fmod Studio project, exported in a way that your game engine can access. Fmod Studio will automatically create a master bank for you, so for now we're just going to use this one. To assign an event to this bank, simply right-click the event, select Assign to Bank, browse, then select Master. To recap, think of the flow of data like this. We load sound files into the Assets tab. Those assets get used by specific events. The events then contain information as to how those sounds are played. When you assign events to specific banks, they can be loaded in and out of the game engine as needed. It's a similar process to creating a sound file in your DAW. You load the sound from a folder on your hard drive into a project in your DAW. In your DAW, you then manipulate the sound as needed and export the changes as a new sound file, which you can open and play whenever you need.
Oh,
Cool.
nice.
So that was an example of the first video in the playlist, which is explaining the ins and outs of the basics of how Fmod events and Fmod sheets kind of work, but mainly the concept of Fmod events. So we really wanted to focus on explaining what an event in Fmod is, and then really breaking that concept down rather than just kind of doing the classic, oh, it's a project in your DAW file and then leaving it at that. It's like we really want people to understand the concept behind it. And then as we develop and go further on, we've got things like explaining what specifically a sheet is in Fmod, and then why those elements are separated out from an event, and how those things kind of all interplay. And in fact, we've still got a couple more clips if people would like to see some more from the next video, which I think is talking about the sheets. Simon, is that correct? I think.
If so.
Nice.
That's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to see some more, or we're happy to keep talking?
Oh no, let's look at one more, and then we've got some questions coming in, which is great. So
Great.
I'll ask you those after this demo because I'm like, oh man, new stuff. So please continue to ask questions on the YouTube chat, and cool. Well,
Awesome.
it would be great to see another demo.
Cool. So I think this is part 1 from episode 2. We've got a little bit of a clip here, which is like I said, episode 2 is focusing on the sheets within Fmod, and
I think it's the 2D to 3D audio of
cool.
this one.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, explaining those sort of differences.
When you play a sound in a game, generally it's either played in 2D space or 3D space. 2D space means the sound is played ignoring the position of the character or object in the game. A game's music is an example of 2D sound playback. 3D space means that the sound is being played in a way that the game engine is keeping track of the character or object's position in the game world and adjusting the panning and position of the sound to appear closer or further away. Generally, you can think of it like this. 2D space is similar to listening to a sound on headphones. 3D space is how sound normally works day to day. You hear a sound originating from a certain point, which then gets louder or quieter the closer or further from the sound you are.
So I think that kind of demonstrates the directions we're taking pretty well, and that we're trying to make sure that we've got nice clear visuals to explain what's going on, but that we're also explaining the foundation and the conceptual elements behind the different systems within Fmod, so our users can then go, okay, so this is the concept behind it, and then they can apply it in their own way rather than us, forcing people to go down a certain road with it. Because Leonard, I'm sure, as you know, if you try to tell, 20 different users, this concept works this way, maybe half the users are going to get it and the other half need a different metaphor or a different concept or a different way to internalize that. And to
Yeah.
do that in a video, you don't have that luxury to be able to dynamically update yourself and react to the students. So we want to make sure we're just explaining, the core concepts and technical elements behind it.
Yeah, no, that's great, and that was also something that we had mentioned, when we were sort of doing our chats, before the stream, is basically saying that, you know, games are kind of like a messy thing, and so I feel like if we were just like, very prescriptive, like you're saying, like it's just like it has to be done this way, sure, people could go like, okay, very good. And then they get to their first game and they're like, oh crap. Like it's just
Exactly.
not the way that it was sort of set up. So a lot of the way
Exactly.
that, I sort of try to teach is sort of, teach people, the tip, it sounds typical, but the idea of like how to learn. So so that they're ready for those sort of twists and turns, because I mean that's basically what game audio is. It's, setting up your machine, it's buying a different machine, it's getting your internet to work, it's, it's interpersonal skills, it's writing, it's listening, and it's a
Definitely.
very broad, set of disciplines that we sort of, need to pursue. So it's nice to have it, focused yet flexible with the way that the tutorials are being approached. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I
it's
completely
for
agree.
cool, because it's very exciting for me to see, like, for I'm looking over here to the YouTube folks, but like you heard it here first. So I'm very
Yeah.
obviously
No,
excited, and
that's
thanks so
true.
much.
I guess for our lovely viewers, this is actually the first public showing we've had of any of these content demos. So you guys are getting a proper exclusive here.
Oh my goodness. That's great. And I guess, also like I said, as far as exclusivity, the school happens to be the one school that's listed, on the Firelight website. So I'm very happy that, Firelight chose the school to support us in that way, because we're, small and independent, and we do really rely on, word of mouth, but also sort of being able to network within the community, which includes, Firelight Studios, which is it's great. It's a great community to be a part of. So, I'm just saying, thank you so much for that. It's great. Really appreciate the support.
Always a pleasure, Leonard, for sure.
Cheers. Well, now we're going to do some twists and turns. So I've got
Let's do
a
it.
couple of questions coming up. So I guess what I'll do is I'll ask the most recent question first. There's another two questions after that. But will there be additional tutorials on more advanced topics like integration in Unity and or Unreal? Like, are we looking to do those in the future too?
Definitely, yes. Yes. So we at the moment we're working on, that was actually phase 2 of our onboarding process, but I won't get too deep into that just yet. But we are developing content demos for both Unity and Unreal. And in those content demos, so there'll be a vertical slice of gameplay elements. We'll be focusing on walking through the users in terms of how to set the project up, download the project, get Fmod working in Unity or Unreal respectively, and then discussing different elements within the game of how to get real world examples of again the footsteps thing or combat systems or animations or environmental things and all that kind of stuff. So we're definitely in our intermediate and advanced playlists. We've got the three main playlists currently scheduled. We've definitely got a lot of really deep dive stuff coming. But for the moment, we want to get our onboarding stuff done first. We've got that really strong foundation to let our users, climb up with us and build up from there. But we're definitely we'll be getting well and truly into the weeds. Don't worry.
That's perfect. Yeah. Basically, thanks for that. Like the answer to that question. And just for
Excellent.
Cheers. For terminology's sake, for people that haven't worked in games, a vertical slice is
Oh yeah.
where you have your, your full game that you will eventually make, but it's kind of like that's all sort of like black and white. It's just the outline. But then what you choose to do is pick a little small part of that, and then color it in as much as it's going to be. So similar to, whatever a cake, you slice through it, and then you can see all the layers that go down. And so
Mm.
yeah, that's sort of just explaining a bit of the terminology
Yeah, no,
that maybe
thank
not
you
everybody
for
knows.
sure. No, yeah, I appreciate it. I think I always look at a vertical slice like a character suite if you're doing music stuff. So, when you're maybe starting a project and you've got this character arc and you've got to write all these different pieces of music for this character. Sometimes writing a 2 or 3 minute piece that kind of encompasses all the different elements within that story can be a really good way to iron out musically all of the different elements within it. You've got your different orchestration elements and instrumentation, production, composition. Um, and then you've then got this small little statement that's got all of these bits that you can draw from to expand it out into a full score. A vertical slice is very similar. It's this little chunk of gameplay where you've got everything's working, it's looking as nice as you can. Normally, developers will then take that to publishers and whatnot. But in our case, I think it's a really good way to showcase just a little bit of a statement of um, how FMod looks in a day-to-day environment.
Yeah, well, that's great. Another question being, I guess, related to that is asking, will there be new tutorial like demo projects that we'll have access to that have Fmod integrated into them so that we can use them for, well, for us, for demo reels or, like similar sort of like, learning kind of things?
Yeah, yes, they will indeed. So at the moment, we're still working through the logistics of actually, distributing the projects of a lot of these things. And I guess for those who maybe aren't super deep into distribution and licensing law, um, it's tricky to distribute a game project where you're actually giving access to the engine project, so Unity or Unreal project, because you're essentially giving access to the raw files, the models and textures and whatnot. So for music and sound, it would be like saying instead of just giving the client, the end sound that you've made, you're giving them all of the raw assets that you recorded, all the recordings and everything. And it's like not many sound designers would want to do that.
Yeah.
um, so for distribution, it's a little bit tricky. But we have been working on, like I said, content demos for Unity and Unreal. At the moment, we're planning for them to be as open as we can be. Currently, the Unity project that we've got consists of all CCO and CC BY material, which is basically Creative Commons or Creative Commons attribution licensing, which means that you could, once we release it, if it stays in its current state, you'd be able to literally download the project and actually use all of the assets in the project for a commercial game if you wanted to. Much less,
Nice.
for showreel material and everything would be totally fine. Our Unreal demo is looking a little bit different just because of the Unreal EULA. It's a bit into the weeds again to get into that one, but yeah, look, in short, we've definitely got some content coming out soon. I can maybe even show you a little bit of a snapshot of the Unreal demo that I'm working on at the moment,
Oh man.
and see what that would look like. At the moment, the Unreal demo, it's you need a pretty beefy graphics card, so I might have to rein that back a little bit. We'll see. But yeah, we've definitely got a lot of content planned for that for different projects, and then down the line, I'd like to get demos for different genres as well. So things like a fantasy demo, and then a casual game demo, FPS, and that kind of thing, just so we can start showcasing, what FMod looks like in those environments. So Leonard, you touched on it earlier, and that was definitely my experience of going through all the tutorial elements of things and going, all right, this is how you make, this is how you follow the tutorial point for point, and then you get on a game and it's just chaos because real-time game development is not this pristine, clean environment. It's just everywhere. And then you kind of go, hang on, what elements do I pull from those tutorials into this, and how do I apply it? So I really want to try and give our users as much of an example of, okay, in this situation, start with this, and then you can maybe kind of adapt it in and hook it in somehow that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having the different stylistic demos would be really good for that as well. But as always, time is the the big question on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, now that you've said it, not just me, but the whole community is going to hold you to it.
No,
But yes.
that's good. We're definitely getting there. The
Yeah.
Unreal demo is coming along pretty nicely. I think we've put some good legwork into it for the last few weeks. And yeah, we've definitely got some cool stuff happening with Unreal as well, actually. We can't announce anything just yet, but we have just earlier today actually had a meeting with Unreal, the audio department at Unreal. We'll be collaborating with them on some Unreal integration elements moving forward as well. So
Nice.
that could be really exciting to see what's going to come out of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I won't try to pry the details out of you, but I will say that I have spent, because at the school we teach Fmod, but then we also teach Unity, Unreal, Wise, and also for kind of for fun, pure data. But as far as like the Unreal side of things, there has been a massive amount of development being done on the audio engine. They've basically got like, mad Fortnite money that they've been able to hire this great team with. And like the lead audio, Aaron is like, very enthusiastic and got a lot of energy and has got a
Oh, yeah.
great team behind him.
Yeah.
And they just seem to be, like sort of, leaps and bounds kind of thing. And so I think that, I'm not saying that this is the case, but one of the things that might be sort of an interesting sort of, way to sort of that I would see them kind of, working together is that, meta sounds are good for making like, sounds and synthesis and also doing all sorts of complex kind of visual, I guess you'd say DSP graph type stuff for making sounds. And then you've got blueprints, which is nice visual coding. But the thing that's great about Fmod, especially from the videos that we've seen, is that like there's a way to approach a very sort of clean design sense. So, like, a
Yeah.
program
Yeah.
opens up, and like I've heard this from many students, is that they're just like, this looks like a DAW. It doesn't look like a spreadsheet or like a massive wires, if they're not used to working with a modular synthesizer or Max MSP or whatever. So I think that there could be a
Totally.
very nice correlation to use these two together. And once again, I'm not trying to push you into any sort of comment on that, but I'm just saying as an outsider, I think that there's a very rich set of possibilities for collaboration there. So it's great to hear that that you talked to them even just today. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's I'm really excited to see what comes out of that collaboration. But my focus is definitely on usability for our end users. That's always going to be a high focus for me. But I think the key in making a successful collaboration in this sense is going to be making sure that both parties is relying on their strengths and making sure that Fmod has still got its strengths moving forward. The interface being a familiar interface, a DAW-like interface, and as you said, clean and creative, but also making sure that we're getting access to the the potential and power behind the Unreal audio system as well. And I think that's the thing that I want to really make sure that we're getting is both of these parties need to be bringing the best parts of both of their programs to it. And yeah, it's exciting to see what's gonna eventuate from it for sure.
Nice. So earlier you said that you might have a demo on the Unreal side of things. Is that something that you're able to show, or is that kind of like a demo, like I'm keeping my demo to myself?
No, we can go through a little bit of that, although
Oh,
it's
okay.
asking me to. Oh, there we go. I'm just gonna make sure it's still playing audio because I just had a strange message come up.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, live demos
which
are tricky, especially when it's a very heavy program like Unreal. Um, yeah, I've
yes.
been
Oh,
using Unreal a lot, and it's you just You running with the wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, no, I know exactly why I did that. That's fine. We'll just quickly do this, make sure we're still working. There we go. And cool, I think.
Maybe audio?
Yeah, we're good. Okay.
Okay, so you can share screen, I guess?
Yep. So, this is very much a work in progress demo.
Yeah.
It's something we've been throwing together for some presentations we've got coming up, but it is forming the baseline for what will ultimately be our Fmod content demo for Unreal. So we're currently working in 5.1. So we do have Fmod working in 5.1. For anybody who's up to date with that side of things, Fmod is compatible with Fmod is compatible with Unreal 5.1, but there's some finicky stuff that you've kind of got to get up and running for now. The next release of Fmod, which is right around the corner, is going to fix those as well. So if anybody is using Unreal 5.1, the next release of Fmod will attend to those concerns. But as you'll see in a minute, we do have Fmod working in 5.1, and it's completely fine. So this is our little third-person fantasy sort of thing.
Yeah.
We do have some enemies with some systems in there, but they're not running at the moment. We haven't got that back in the system yet. But at the moment, the main thing we wanted to showcase was just the ability to simply play sounds, prototype sounds, and hook them all up into Unreal. So if we just press play, at the moment we've got some wind sounds from the trees that are being emitted. Some interesting glitch. Anyway, got some basic footsteps. We don't really have any velocity stuff moving just yet because we're in real early development with it. But you can hear that the wind is hopefully is coming through in 3D spatialized. Whoops. Until it doesn't loop. But anyway. And then some basic animation, firing, and then the actual arrows have some sound emitters on there. So it's a pretty basic kind of thing. But what we wanted to do was showcase what Fmod looks like in a day-to-day actual game. So this would be ultimately there'll be some enemies sort of patrolling around, and we can kind of do this little stealth thing where we kind of come in and kill some enemies and stay hidden and do all that kind of stuff. But this is kind of what I was talking about when I was saying I really want to make sure it looks and feels like an actual real world project, so not just a tech demo or like some of those really low poly example projects where it's really curated in this pristine environment. I want to make sure that it feels like this might be what an actual project would look like if you were coming into a commercial job. So what we'll eventually be doing with the content demos is walking users through how we create sounds, what kind of sounds we need, what the design process of some of those sounds would be, and then also looking at hooking them up into Unreal and what that kind of process looks like. Luckily, it's pretty. Honestly, I find Unreal pretty painless when it comes to getting single basic shots and emitters and things working. It's only really when you get really deep into the adaptive systems and whatnot that it can start getting a little bit kind of finicky. But the main thing is just kind of getting a bit of a basic understanding of blueprints and how that kind of logic works will help a lot. So yeah.
Yeah. We do teach blueprints in the Unreal course, but it's also possible for students taking the Fmod course to do, it's called the coding add-on. and then we can
Cool.
help people out do basically visual scripting. We don't really approach C++ with Unreal because it's a bit too deep of a topic to approach like in a smaller course like ours. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I completely relate. The course that I taught in Melbourne was I think 2 hours a week for a year, so 24 weeks total. And we had to do a little bit of C sharp in that, and even that it's such a struggle to get the students um,
Yeah.
up to speed with it because it's so much to take in. Like if you think about it, that's 48 hours to learn C sharp. Like that's
Yeah.
yeah. Um, So yeah, this is like I said, this is just kind of the starting thing that we've got at the moment. We're mainly using there's mainly Quixel assets here,
Hmm.
which are free for anybody to use for Unreal. The ground texture is actually something that I made myself in a weekend when I was curious and
Hmm.
made that one with displacement maps and all this fun stuff. But that's yeah, I was exploring with Nanite for those interested. You can
Yes.
see that these meshes are exceptionally dense meshes. So if we go to wireframe, you see all of our lovely polygons in this.
Yeah.
But Nanite is just so fascinating to me. Um,
Yeah. It
and
is
being able
very
to just
much
kind of
like
go,
next level.
it really is like being able to
Yeah.
just go, oh, I've got a 10 million triangle chunk of land. I'm just going to duplicate this 300 times and make a base. And it go, oh yeah, that's still running at 60 FPS. It's fine. It's just really cool to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Definitely.
But yeah, so like I said, it's very early days in the demo. We don't really have too much in the way of really interesting audio to showcase just yet. But it's more of a framework to go. This is kind of the caliber that I'd like to keep our demos at. So it really feels like our users are going, okay, we can get a real world example. And, as I said, I was a freelance audio for 16, 17 years. If I had a project like this that I could put on my show reel, I'd be happy. So if I can
Hmm.
help other users get down that road as well, then awesome. Let's do it.
No, that really looks great. It's super exciting because once again, at the school, what I've done for the FMod course is that I've integrated FMod Studio into Unity in the 3D game kit, which
Yep.
currently I think that's one of the nicer looking sort of demos that's available out there. And
Yep.
so yeah, I've it's something that unless you've done it, you don't necessarily understand how much work goes into it. So basically, over the roughly like 10 years of the school, I've always kept the demo projects running. I've coded them and made sure that they run both on Mac and PC. Quite honestly, the Mac right now is at a very interesting stage because of the new sort of unified chipset with silicon.
Yep.
And so everybody is sort of going through bumps and jiggles with that. And yeah, like say with Nanite, I'm not sure if that's necessarily supported on Mac just yet, but I'm sure that it will be soon if because it definitely
Mm.
has the power to do so. It's just recently I looked and they're just they've got their I think it's Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and I'm sure that Mac will be there very soon as well. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely pushing it pretty heavily. I haven't really spoken to too many of the creative people on the Nanite teams and whatnot, but I know they're definitely developing a lot of different aspects of it. Um, the biggest issue at the moment with Nanite, for those that are interested, is you need at least an 8 gig graphics card to run it. So if you don't have that, it won't run. It's not because of the power requirement. Well, it is partially, but it's not like, oh, you need at least an 8 gig. It's literally a hard coded requirement. So if you
Yeah.
don't have an 8 gig graphics card, it'll default back to the classic LOD system, which is the level of detail system, which means the models will fade to lower quality versions the further away something gets.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a bit off topic.
No, no worries. It would be great like once we sort of get, like you've got your introductory tutorial stuff, then it's sort of the medium level stuff, and then like, super advanced, like, nanite slash, whatever, how audio could, work with, in this case, maybe pairing it somewhat like, with, like we said before, like with meta sounds, or at least learning, like, sort of more how the blueprint system works within Unreal. Yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff would be really awesome for students to see and to work with firsthand, because that's, like the demo that you showed, the visuals behind it are, you want to have something that really looks nice,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Exactly.
hopefully
Exactly.
having, like the enemies and all that kind of stuff, then you can at least create like a little sense of drama in your,
Yeah.
1 to 2 minute kind of demo reel. So yeah, I
Exactly.
think that project, and then hopefully other projects too, I know there's always time, money, all the limiting factors, but yeah, I know how much time it takes to keep all these things run up and running,
Mm.
and it's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's to have any help with that is really welcome.
Totally. And
Yeah.
again, that was something that, I experienced, like yourself, I experienced firsthand while teaching, of just finding demos to teach game audio to was really tough.
Hmm.
So, if I can, if I can fulfill or Firelight's requirements with these sort of projects, but also be able to help people like yourself and people like myself when I was in that teaching position, to go, here's something that at least looks really cool. It helps with the half asleep uni students that turn up maybe a little bit slow, or worse for wear, the day
Right.
after a bit of a party. It helps them kind of go, oh, this is exciting and interesting, and I want to feel invested again, rather than just kind of going, okay, whatever. Because
Yeah.
it can be early morning. It's tough to get motivated. I get it.
Yeah. Well, I guess, and on the sort of learning side of things, question is sort of, what's the learning curve like for FMod for somebody who strictly has an audio background and doesn't have a programming background?
Yeah, so I would definitely say Fmod has a really nice learning curve. We've done we've done a lot of work in making sure that people feel comfortable. It doesn't feel intimidating when you're opening up Fmod, and I think that's really evident whenever see anybody see Fmod for the first time, and see somebody start dropping in sounds to a timeline and playing it around and seeing all that kind of stuff, where it just feels like a standard door in a lot of ways. Um, where the current spikes are in the learning curve is where you start looking at non-linear things. So from a
Hmm.
standard audio background, most people tend to work in linear methods. So film being linear, it starts at the start and it finishes at the end, and you've got a set runtime, and you've got all these different hit points that you can catch along the way and sculpt your um, emotional curve around that. Whereas with games, you don't know. Sometimes the user might get bored and start looking at the textures on the cliff for 20 minutes before they move on. You don't know. Um,
Hmm.
so when you start seeing how you can integrate these kind of systems of non-linear audio within FMod, sometimes that can be a bit tricky to get your head around if you're not familiar with that. And I think that's
Hmm.
just non-linear audio in general. I don't think it's a issue inherently with FMod. I think it's just that concept can be tough to get around. But that's definitely something that we're trying to address in our onboarding videos, to make sure that users that have no experience whatsoever in game audio can just watch this playlist, and hopefully at the end of it come out with at least comfortable enough knowledge to create what they need to create for their upcoming projects. And then the rest of the playlists are going to be the day-to-day, like, hey, here's a thing that you could do on your next project, rather than a onboarding 101 kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think this is, something that the three of us talked about, once again, when we were sort of, workshopping ideas for this, is that
Mm,
there's an interesting parallel with the fmod parameter pages. A lot of students,
mm,
they look at the timeline and they're like, hey, it looks like a DAW, and like, the little, whatever thing moves from left to right, and that's the way time moves, and then they move to a parameter, and it's just like, it doesn't work like that.
yeah,
So I guess, yeah, that's
that's
something. Yeah.
that's definitely something that we actually, I think in the last video that we've just done,
Hmm.
that we actually directly address, was talking about what the playback position, which is the white line that moves, along the timeline, is the playhead or whatever you want to call it. The official name is the playback position, and we really explain how that works fundamentally, rather than just going, oh, it's wherever in the piece you are, because that's not what it is. It's kind of more like a trigger, right? And we speak specifically about the fact that how instruments in Fmod work, and the fact that an instrument will get triggered on when the playback position is over the top of an instrument, right? And then really drilling that concept home. And once the users get their head around the fact that, oh, okay, so when the playback position is over an instrument, that means it's being played and turned on, then you can kind of go, okay, cool. So a timeline is just a parameter sheet that's driven by time. So it means it moves forward constantly. And then a parameter sheet means that it's not driven by time. You control where the playback position is.
Yeah.
So it's almost better to kind of double back and say, well, technically, the parameter sheet is actually the basis, and then the timeline sheet is what it's based off of, rather than the other way around. Because the functionality of a parameter sheet, of a timeline, is essentially a parameter sheet based on time.
Yeah, I guess. And sorry, Simon, we've been totally, glazed over you for, a little while anyways. But I mean, I'd like to ask you this question too. Like when you were starting out, like learning Fmod, what kind of, sort of bumps did you find with it? Was that kind of like a hiccup, or is your background sort of more programming? So just sort of expanding on this question of just like, what is it like for people to learn Fmod that have different backgrounds?
Well, I'm coming at this from a composer and audio position as well, because I recently finished my bachelor's for music composition, and that's actually where I met Aaron originally, during one of my electives for game
I
audio.
literally taught him Fmod at uni.
I think for going from that composer's perspective, I guess one of the things that, as Aaron was saying, the nature of games can be so non-linear typically, and I think that's one of the things that people coming into game audio specifically kind of need to start to understand, because talking to other people that, let's say, also do music and also do audio, if they haven't worked in games or had a look at how audio works, you can't really talk to them about the difference, because they don't quite understand without a proper explanation. So I think coming to using Fmod, looking at how things work um, in a non-linear fashion, and just learning how to make things non-linear, because there are some techniques that work better than others, and there are some things that you'll apply to sound design or you'll apply to music, not necessarily both. But the things will work better for others, and it's just, that's the kind of initial learning curve. I think Fmod's really good for people going from a DAW into a middleware program, because it's got a very familiar look. It's very straightforward, similar sort of navigation as a DAW as well. So it's a lot easier to initially not be terrified of, essentially. And we're definitely hoping that these tutorials are going to help people even further once they've been like, all right, this looks okay. I can kind of see myself using this. Where do I go from here? So we're hoping that those tutorial videos will kind of help guide people into, this is, if you're doing a game and you've got this sort of scenario, or you're doing this type of game, you need to know these little bits and pieces of parts of Fmod, and demos are definitely going to help showcase uses of those. So
Yeah, and I like the design of the demos where it's just like they're very practical, and they're kind of like building blocks where you can like rip pieces out of them and then use those in your own work. I mean, for me, that's it's very nice to have that, especially when you're learning, because it's kind of like
Yeah,
it's kind of like a kid in a candy store. It's just like, oh, this and this, and it's just like, don't touch. Whereas
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is like, it's meant to be played with, and that's, I believe,
totally.
the way that people learn best. I guess the
Mm.
follow-up question to that is really sort of similarly, like, besides the sort of visual of the DAW side of things, what do you both sort of see? Like, I'll ask you first, Simon, but how do you see, like, what sets Fmod apart, say, from other solutions, either working with other middleware or working with in-house tools? If you can speak to that, that would be great.
Aside from the visual aspect,
Mm-hmm.
well, there are certain unique features that we do have. Something like the scatterer, which is, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, is unique to Fmod. Um, s- so the scatterer, if people don't know, essentially is uh, kind of like a multi-instrument where you put in a bunch of different audio files, and it can um, scatter them. So let's say sound design stuff, for example, we've got lots of birds. We get lots of bird audio files. They can be one-shot birds as well, so you don't have to have something continuously going. But the scatterer, once you've got five or so, let's say, in there, it will randomly pick. It can randomly pick between them. It can um, modulate other features as well, like the pitch. Basically, make it sound like that there you've got lots of birds around you, and then it's also got
Mm-hmm.
parameters to modify it so you can make it adaptive as well. So you can
Mm.
have a parameter make it sound like that there's more birds at this time of day, for example, or a lot less birds and that sort of thing. So I
Yeah.
think one of the really great features of Fmod is that aspect. It just cuts down on a lot of time, and I think we had a use case um, through one of the interviews we had from someone working on the game recently as well, where Aaron was able to help
Mm-hmm.
them, and because they had
Mm.
done a similar sort of thing, but taken like short audio files and done fades and that sort of thing to try
Oh,
to get a
wow.
similar effect, and
Yeah.
because they didn't know about that
Yeah.
aspect, and then Aaron was just like, if you do this, it's like 5 clicks,
Exactly.
and he was like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Mm. Mm. I
That's
think
great.
I
Yeah.
think quickly to summarize that, I think that's a great point. But Fmod's always been really good at providing creative tools for users to um, achieve what they want to achieve, rather than
Mm,
providing a pipeline to integrate audio. It's about providing tools and a modular system to let users uh, realize their ambitions with game
Mm-hmm.
audio. And I think that's a really important thing for us to keep when we're moving forward, is going, how can we provide more tools to let our users achieve what they want to achieve?
Nice.
Um, which is what I always find fascinating when people come to me and say, "Oh, I tried to do this, but they did it this way, and it, didn't work because of whatever reason." You go, "Okay, well, that's interesting. Maybe that's something we can look at
mm.
developing. If there's enough, need behind it, or enough users that want something like that, then we can look into developing and helping people achieve it."
Yeah, no, that
and,
that
and
is
not only
great. The
not
just to say that we're at the top of the hour, and it's not the case that we're going to stop talking right now. We'll still go for the 15-ish minutes. I hope is okay for you both. Sort of, because there's
Yep.
like limitless things to ask you
Mm,
to,
mm.
and to do demos and all these kind of things. So I will say to people listening, if you have questions, continue to ask those. We might not get to them all, but that's still fine. But I hope that's okay for you both. Sort of like, 15 plus ish minutes, somewhere around there.
Yep, yep. 15
Okay.
should be okay, roughly.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Good. Putting the squeeze on you.
Yeah.
So I guess the follow up to the scatter one, because like, my background, I went to Simon Fraser University here in Vancouver, and one of the main folks there in my electroacoustics program was Barry Truex, who did granular synthesis, and so granulation was something that I sort of it was sort of a thing that I pushed like years ago back when I was first talking at the Game Developer Conference. And anytime I see new tools that are kind of having this granulation approach, I'm definitely sort of excited by that. And even like the latest, granular or grain delay, like in meta sounds, is kind of exciting. Are you gonna be adding any more, like effects like that or similar? Like, is there sort of, new DSP kind of things that you can talk about that might be added in the near future?
We're definitely looking into the DSP development side of things. There's been a bit of a push on some optimization elements for DSP, which is taking up the bulk of the DSP production. Um, and they should be coming out soon. Once that's out, it's definitely something that we've got um, on the radar to keep an eye out for. I guess if people think of anything that they would like to see or any effects that they think are missing from Fmod that they'd like to see, then definitely reach out and let us know. And we'll always happy to take on ideas and see. At the moment, it's we're always looking at different things that we can do to expand and different tools that we can um, provide our users with. So
Yeah, the scripting API that I hope people know about for Fmod is incredibly powerful, and I think that it would. I haven't used it, but definitely like deep integrations between like Fmod and Reaper are definitely like that's something that is, I'm sure, very like how do you say, desirable for the community. Is there any sort of tips and tricks that you could give in that domain?
Um, so we do have some example scripts on the Fmod documentation. If you look up the Fmod scripting language, there's some examples of different, not plugins, but different scripts that you can compile for yourself that help with things like bulk editing or importing and changing things within the tool, which is really powerful. And there's some really cool stuff you can get done with that. And most of the time, if there is something in Fmod that we don't have, then you usually can create it yourself with the different scripting capabilities. It's definitely something that this modular approach of implementing scripts and whatnot is definitely something that I've had on my radar for a while. And it's something that, yeah, I think we'll be looking at and investigating further. But there's nothing too concrete just yet, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's how do you say? I'm not expecting to have instant results all the time.
I do my best, but
Unlike
yeah.
investors.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. The I guess also for one thing that I've seen Epic do is that they've given examples of using, basically making like DSP nodes. And I know that there's like like a DSP example within like the Fmod API, but are there sort of like is there more movement towards like sort of integrating like DSP developers, or are you saying it's kind of like you're sort of focusing on optimization at this time?
Right now, it's definitely a big push for optimization and just workflow improvements and usability. Uh, we're always investigating DSP and what we can do to improve that for sure. But as I said, as you mentioned, there's examples out there for using the F1 API to create your own DSP. So it's definitely something we welcome our users to experiment with. And if anybody comes up with something cool, then I'd love to see it for sure. Um, uh, but yeah, it's something we're keeping on the radar. For me personally, I'm keeping our future a little bit kind of fluid at the moment, so we can, once we start getting these workflow improvements out and we start seeing what our users are doing, and once we've gotten everybody back up to that nice base level, we can then kind of go, okay, now we've got a really clear vision of what we need to do moving forward. So to me, the big first port of call is let's just make sure that everybody's on even footing, because
Hmm.
right now we've got power users from 25 years ago and then people that have no clue what to do beyond dropping a sound in. And yeah.
I think I'm in the other category. I've been doing this for a while.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're definitely number one on that one.
Yeah, and that's actually something that's maybe not everybody knows about, but Firelight has been around for a long time, and
Mm,
that's part of the reason why I really appreciate, like, both of you connecting with us because that's something that I think is, sort of in the long run important is to really, hold the community together, share the information like you are with, folks on, in our community as well. And
mm,
to also be, a little bit vulnerable about like, like, well, we're doing this. We know we're not sure when exactly it'll happen, or like, yeah, we're not planning to do that, but of course, these are good ideas. And to basically sort of dynamically respond to those kind of concerns, because I know that, from working in the industry this long, that sometimes if one overpromises, that is a good way to get roasted. So, um,
yeah,
it's
yeah. Look,
I think it's
it
it's important to be cautious.
Mm.
no, definitely, and I think it's to me, transparency is really important for everybody, from our end users, for our clients, and for myself to our users. I think it's important that we're as transparent as we can be. Um, and I don't think I ever will promise anything that I know I can't do. That's just me as a person. I don't do that. Um, but I can always give insights and say, well, this is what we're kind of doing, but it's not common that I'll come out and say we're doing it this date for this thing, because I think it's just not it's not fair on users. It's not even about getting roasted or anything. It's more about the fact that if I was a
Yeah,
user and going, this date's when I'm going to get the cool thing, and then I don't, you can be disappointed, and then I feel bad because I've disappointed someone. like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
that's kind
yeah.
of my mantra with this stuff. Anyway, it's just how would I feel if I was in that position?
Yeah,
So,
and the thing that I had noticed, after running the school this long, doing game dev for a while, is that we are not islands unto ourselves. Like,
mm,
working in game audio, you're floating on all these, technologies and all this other stuff that, you don't necessarily have full control over, unlike maybe the old days of, at least on the system side, of working on a Commodore 64, or like, those kind of things. Like, they're
mm,
these machines that we'd use to create our art are hideously complicated. And I think that a lot of people that haven't necessarily spent the time with it, they're very excited about the results of what comes out of these systems, but it takes time to really fully understand the depth of knowledge that's and the amount of moving parts that sort of are required
mm,
to make the magic happen.
definitely, definitely. And I think that's just part of technological development in general. Is that it's very easy to forget that there are limitations to things, and I think a lot of people will, especially if they don't understand like the core concept of something, or maybe they've misinterpreted the core concept of something, that they may try and use a certain feature, and this isn't related to fmod but just in technology in general. They may try and
Hmm.
use a feature in a certain way that ends up you know not working. It's not scalable in the way that they might assume it is, and then suddenly things bottom out for resources and things. And I think that's why it's really important for us to have tutorials like the ones we're making that are focusing on the conceptual principles of these elements, and really solidifying that so that our users can make educated judgment calls on whether or not something is scalable or not, because they understand the logic behind it.
Yeah. And I remember there was a point that we had chatted about, when we are setting this talk up, is one of the things, the features, as far as sort of, killer features that I've found with FMod, working with it over the years, is the ability to basically not only do the profiling, but also
Mm,
be able to do hot swapping of the content, while the game is running, and then also stop the game
Mm.
play your, your basically your profile log back and still be able to switch content out and change parameters
Mm.
and all those kind of things. So I'm, sort of nudging and hoping that those kind of features will, be sort of featured. Those features will be featured, like, highlighted in the upcoming tutorial series. Because to me,
Most definitely, yeah.
those are real magic moments when working in
Yeah.
game audio, because you're just like, I can just play this file. I don't have to replay the whole game and like
Yeah.
recreate all the stuff leading up to that point. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So in our initial playlist, the onboarding playlist, we've definitely got the profiler flagged as one of the main videos we'll be talking about.
Nice.
We will be explaining sort of what's happening and how to use it. And then in the intermediate and advanced playlist, we'll be talking about the actual use cases of how you might, go about using that on a day-to-day example, going, well, if you're making changes to this or doing this, this is how you might use it. And we can cover things like hot swapping and, making mix changes and balances and things like that with the profile, because it is a really amazingly powerful tool. That and
Mm-hmm.
the sandbox, I think, are both two really, really useful systems that um, a lot of people tend to sleep on. They're really powerful and have a lot of really strong creative capability behind them.
Yeah, and the same thing for snapshots as well. Just to put that in
Mm,
there.
definitely.
That's something
Yeah.
that I use all the time, and when I'm trying to help students basically just take their implementation to the next level, because it is very intuitive. Like once
Mm,
you actually use it, you're just like, wow, this is like, similar to, whatever, like a mixer snapshot, when working
mm,
with a digital mixer. So yeah,
definitely.
those topics would be great to hear. A lot of tutorial meaty stuff, and so it's been great that you've been able to share those other, the two tutorials that you already did, the videos. I'm, as you can tell, I'm very interested in hearing and seeing more.
Yeah. No, there's we're definitely really keen to start getting those out as soon as we can, for sure.
Nice,
Um,
cool.
yeah.
Well, I guess what we'll do is, seeing as we've actually exhausted questions from the audience,
Hmm.
minus myself, because I can keep talking. But I want to thank you both very much for your time, and it was very cool that, yeah, you shared, some new exciting stuff that's happening with basically the not only the product that you work on, but the environment and the community that you're part of, that you're basically helping creators do their work and create
Hmm.
new cool stuff. And so I guess a good question is, how do folks get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm on all the social medias. You can just search for, I think most of the time it's Aaron C. Edwards, C for Charles.
Hmm.
I use the middle initial because there's an Australian footballer called Aaron Edwards. So it's easier to find me if you use the initial.
Nice.
um, but if anyone would like to officially reach out, then my email is just aaron@fmod.com. So
Nice.
feel free to flip across any questions or any suggestions or anything like that. I'm always happy to try and help out as best as I can.
Nice. And yep, Simon.
Yep, I'm just known as Simon Stenberger on most of the socials, and similar to Aaron, it's simon@fmod.com if anyone wants to get in touch. Always happy for a little bit of a chat too.
That's
Mm.
great, because you've been a bit of our how do you say, um, you're like reserve pitcher, and so you have a wealth of knowledge that hopefully, not just, in this talk we will, whatever, unfortunately be wrapping up, but people can ask both of you in-depth questions. And
Mm.
then there's also, the typical forum is the FMod Q&A, but it sounds like it's better to contact you directly through email. Is that correct?
Um, so any of the questions that get put through the FMod forum, they get lodged through our internal systems, and they all get monitored and dealt with. So if there's any technical questions or things like that, then the forum is a great place to go to for that. For any sort of suggestions or ideas or anything like that, definitely feel free to reach out. Or if you'd like to just show me some cool stuff you're doing, that's cool too.
Hmm.
So yeah, I guess if it's anything that's like technical support, then the forums are definitely going to be a better place to go to because you'll get a bit more of a timely response from them as well.
Yeah. No, that's great to hear. Okay, well, I think with that, we'll basically wrap things up. My name is Leonard Paul. Sometimes I put the J in there, but I run the School of Video Game Audio, so that's sovga.com. And, it's been so great having you both join us. And yeah, thank you so much. And to also everybody joining us, I'm pointing at the YouTube screen, but joining us live, and also for people that are joining us in the future as well. Thank you so much.
For sure. Thanks for coming, everyone. It's been a pleasure. And thanks, Leonard, for having us. It's been
Cheers.
great to let me talk for an hour straight.
No, my pleasure.
Cool. And
All
everybody
right.
take care.
That's it. Thanks,
Cheers.
everyone.